Hey guys, and welcome to the 6th episode of the Fantastic Film Factory, the channel that is all about prop building and in-camera movie magic. On today's episode I'm gonna show you how to make a monster glove like this one for very little money. Let's get started. For this particular project I really wanted to show you guys that you can do awesome looking props for very little money if you just use everyday items you've lying around at home in a creative way. In my case I didn't need to buy anything new for this project at all, because I already had some liquid latex and acrylic paints at home. And these are the only two items I used for this project that probably can't be found in an average household. Despite latex and paint, I only used very cheap and basic materials like newspaper or tape, so that overall material costs for this hand were only about $2, which is very little money for a prop like this. But enough talking for today, let's start with the build. I started the build with an old garden glove, which I crammed with some crumbled paper pieces. By doing this I made sure that none of the fingers will be blocked during the building process, so that the hand can still be worn when the build is finished. This gave me a nice basic structure I could work with. I then used the outline of my hand to quickly sketch the bone structure of the hand I wanted to make on a piece of paper. As you can see, the finger bones on my sketch are way longer than they are in real life. But despite the anatomic difference, the proportions between the different finger lengths and the finger segments are still roughly the same as they are at a real-life hand. This is very important because it will make the shape of the hand way more realistic and more pleasant to look at. When I was happy with the design, I used my sketch to build a wire skeleton which matched the drawn shape. I then used old pencils I had lying around to make the individual finger segments rigid, so that the fingers would only bend at the places where a joint would be. This way the hand will always look anatomic correct, no matter what position it's bended into. I attached the pencil pieces to the wire with some duct tape. I then used some more duct tape to attach the wire skeleton to the garden glove. Therefore, I used the sketch I made to check if I still got the right size ratio. I ended up with this very basic hand skeleton. To recreate the muscle and flesh layer, I took some old newspaper we had lying around and wrapped it around the garden glove and wire fingers of the hand skeleton. I used some painter's tape to secure the newspaper to the wire. When I was finished with the rough shape, I shaped some details like tendons or knuckles onto the hand by using some more tape and newspaper. I then wrapped everything with a final coat of painter's tape. Now it was time to give the hand some skin. To create a skin-like, leathery texture for the hand, I took a few sheets of household towels and ripped them into small pieces. After that, I covered the hand with some liquid latex and placed the paper towel pieces onto the hand so that they got soaked with latex. I did this until the whole hand was covered with the latex and paper towel skin. I also used a hairdryer to speed up the drying process. When everything dried, the hand looked like this. I decided to add some more detail by sculpting blood veins onto the surface of the hand. To achieve this effect, I took some paper handkerchiefs, brushed a small amount of latex onto them and rolled them into small paper sausages. I then used some reference images I found on the internet to place them in appropriate places on the hand. They got glued down with some more liquid latex. To blend the veins with the basic skin structure, I took another paper handkerchief and separated the several paper layers from each other until I was left with a single, very thin paper layer. I then used this thin sheet and some more latex to create a smooth transition between the veins and the first skin layer. When everything was dry, the basic hand was finished and looked like this. I think the paper veins add a lot of realism and makes the hand way more organic looking. I then painted the hand with a total of 12 different layers of acrylic paint. I tried to paint from bright colors to dark colors and emphasized the high and low spots on the hand with either light or dark color layers. At the end I used red porcelain color to add some blood spatters. porcelain color works great for this because it gleams like fresh blood when it's dry. After I was done with painting, I was left with this finished monster glove, which was incredibly cheap to make, but still doesn't look too bad. As always when I finished a project, there are a ton of things which I learned in the workshop and which I would do in a different way if I do the project again. This time I really learned that I have to improve my painting skills. For example, I did a lot of mistakes when I did the highlighting on the high and low spots, partly because I didn't mix the right color and partly because I simply painted too much color on a specific spot. If you paint something like this, it's usually always a good idea to go with a lot of very thin color coats than to go with a few but very thick color coats, because it's always possible to add more color to an area, but very hard to cover too much of a color. Does that make sense? I hope so. But again, it was great fun to make this monster hand, and I think something like this is a very cool way to get started in making props. That being said, that's it for today's episode. Thanks for watching, and remember to always stay creative.